Just a little context before we go into a fun video. El Rey is an English language Latino network that was founded out of the Comcast NBC Universal merger in 2011. So the first 4 channels that they gave out, one was Revolt with Diddy, Magic Johnson's Aspire, Robert got El Rey, and then there was a baby channel randomly by a guy named Solomon. So we're now 3 years old. We're in 45 million homes, and we're really excited to kind of show you all what our strategy has now evolved to become. And it's exciting to kind of see Robert's ideas and his dreams come into action, especially as the country is changing so dramatically and our consumer base is more diverse. So I think we're just going to kick it off with the video first, right?
Under the sky, under the heaven, man, there is but one family. You know what I want to think of myself? As a human being.
Constantly evolving and changing.
Keep learning, getting my ideas out there.
You grab it and you go for it.
Hang in there. Always go with your gut.
That was the path.
That's what you're gonna do. That's all you got. Keep going. You have a story to tell.
We get to share really what we feel and how we think.
You have the ability to imagine. It was one of those moments where it was like, okay, this is real.
We need to stand for something and say, I'm here.
I train for every girl who needs a hero.
Learning and earning from your own journey.
Love what you do what you love. Dude, that was good. That was so good. You can't quit. That's what REMY Network is all about. Right. With El Rey.
El Rey.
El Rey.
Park City is a really special place for Robert in particular because 25 years ago in January was when he won the audience award for his movie El Mariachi, which was in 2011 inducted into the Library of Congress National Archives. And actually this year in 2018 with Go 90, he's going to do it again and make another movie for $7,000. So documenting that will cost way more than the movie. But basically, it really feels like nowadays the market has kind of caught up to what he saw 25 years ago and looking at media through his lens and his point of view. So it's really exciting. And I think just to break it down, what's going on with the Latino diaspora, it's really comprised of multiple cultures now, regions and ethnicities, which will really inevitably be driven by total market media consumption. And so that's something that we are experts in and that I've spent my entire career doing this, so.
The basic premise is that, ultimately the Latino diaspora will not just be a niche anymore. The number of 18 to 34-year-olds that are dependent on Spanish language is only 14% now, and that's only going to decrease as you get to Gen Z coming behind it. So as you look at millennials in particular, it's the most diverse, most multicultural, most bilingual generation ever. And on top of it, another thing that we've been really watching very closely, this is based on some work that the University of Chicago has been doing for 40 years on generational views of where they fit in the socioeconomic order. And increasingly what you're seeing, especially for the younger millennial cohort, the 20-somethings, who are on the wrong side of the market crash in 2008, they're increasingly now self-identifying themselves as working class. And so what we see is a really interesting confluence between the growing demographic shift in the country from a demographic standpoint, but also this confluence with millennials, who are now beginning to understand that the gig economy is not what they expected coming out. And so the whole idea of really focusing on on hard work, on having a trade, on having a craft. The dignity that comes from that is something that's really starting to cross for the very first time, despite the fact that this generation is the most educated as well. They don't see their prospects in the same way. And so their psychographics and the way that they look at the world are coming together in a really interesting way.
So I think it's very timely right now that the #1 song in the world and in the United States is Daddy Yankee and Justin Bieber's Despacito. And so really it shows you that Millennial Latino influences span multiple languages, income levels, and cultures. So I'll take you through each of these and give you examples. So the example of like the internet fuel global culture. I might love to watch telenovelas, but my favorite one is in Brazil, and I discovered it from the internet, right? And so I'm actually watching content that's on another continent, but it's relative to me and I relate to it. Depending on what your country of residence is and the popular culture there. So if I was from Colombia or from El Salvador, I would have a different point of view or different pop culture that I'm following online or on SVOD or OTT. People of color commonalities, right? So basically that's like black and brown people in the United States. So Jordan and I might have a conversation and have a commonality that doesn't have anything to do with my Latino heritage. Pan-Latino culture, that's all the different Latino groups, Colombian, Cuban, Spanish, Mexican. And so we all have commonalities, right? Different traits that bring us together besides language. U.S. regional culture. So I'm from San Antonio, like Robert, and the San Antonio, Tex-Mex culture is totally different than if you live closer to New Mexico and you're in Lubbock. Besides the kind of salsa that you eat, it's or your enchilada, it's just a different way of some of our customs, even like our religious affiliations. Like it's very interesting to see that we might focus more on the Virgin Mary, and then they focus on a different version of her. So nationality, i.e., are you from Mexico or are you from Colombia? What country are you actually from? And then family, it goes even deeper than that. So family region of origin. I actually lived in Mexico for a year in college, and so the culture in the norteño, or the northern part, which is closer to Texas, the food, you might eat cabrito. It's totally different customs than if you lived in Oaxaca or on the coast, where it would be more fish. Different kinds of mole would be more important as opposed to the goat.
So when it comes to trying to span this, what we're talking about is a really interesting take that doesn't stop at the pop culture layer, the part where we, all talk about the Kardashians or whatever that thing is. It's very complex once you get underneath the hood. And so the El Rey lens is really about managing for all of that simultaneously, not trying to bubble it up to a lowest common denominator, but really go deep and allow those connections to happen. We have a very multicultural audience that follows us, not just a Latino audience, and in fact, for some shows, we even have a larger percentage of non-Latinos than not, but it's because of the depth and the authenticity and really having a point of view that comes from our founder, Robert Rodriguez. And this photo in particular is special because this is from the set, as it were, which was basically Robert in a wheelchair and a camera, on the set of El Mariachi 25 years ago. And so it's really this is where the genesis of our lens comes from, but it really informs everything that we do. So as a general starting point, so to just get into El Rey now, moving from the market insights, really the key for us is that we are really one of a kind in the fact that we are Latino influenced, for sure. We lead with an entertainment chin, but really what we're focusing on and the way we're sort of capturing that the striver and core of America concept is that this idea is that we ultimately tell stories that revel in the courage, the capacity, and the creativity of ordinary people, but doing extraordinary things and on extraordinary journeys. And it really is something that you'll find as a through line for everything that we do. And it makes things like, even a movie like Rocky, for example, even though it's definitely not a Latino-focused piece, you'll see as we take a look at what makes things El Rey, you'll see that when you bump things against this lens, it's really about that concept of overcoming. But in 4 short steps, this is how we measure everything we do from a brand standpoint. First, is it entertaining? We start with that. We lead with escapist entertainment. It's something that we have to balance very carefully, especially given political things these days. There are a lot of issues on the plate in this community, but we're not that CNN. We're not that specific piece of it. We're about bringing dignity to this community by having images and telling stories and leading with a place that you can almost escape to get away from some of the day-to-day grind and some of the day-to-day things that are taxing. The next two kind of work together. This idea that we measure things on how aspirational they are, and not just in a Deepak Chopra, looking at your navel sort of way. It's combined with the next stair step, which is this idea of grit, which is really just that last bit of strength. It's the grit that gets you through that last rep at the gym. It's just the stick-to-itiveness and the fight and the gritting of the teeth that gets you there. Those two pieces of that kind of grit combined with aspiration really drives what fuels El Rey. And then ultimately, the last gate that any piece of content that we do has to pass through, is it culturally insightful? Some of the things that Theresa was talking about, and is it authentic? And it's important to note that we consider insightful and authentic two very different things and two very special gates that you have to pass through. Any bit of content, any brand in entertainment that we do passes through this lens at El Rey.
So I think these are a couple of examples to kind of show you the nuance, right? So we've actually brought Baja Desert Championship to El Rey, and you see the first image, it actually has always run on CBS. This year's the 50th anniversary of the Baja 1000, and so that's the CBS version of reporting it. And then on the right, you'll see our version, which is Rey Mysterio as the Grand Marshal of the parade, and actually captivating more of the community around Baja and the food and the experience why people go there. In particular, we like to talk about this quote that we got from a viewer saying, "Just wanted to thank you for not following the rest of the loser channels. Keep up the originality. Just watch Baja 250 and Original Fantastic. You have dispelled a lot of fake news about Mexico and it's peaceful. Best regards, Rudy." So this is an example of how we do that. And I think a couple things. One of the reasons why brands love to work with us and partners love to work with us is because we put a cinematic lens over everything. And so I think just when you lay that cinematic experience over it, it's already exciting, it already feels richer, it sounds awesome. And then also this idea of overcome, it's very interesting because it is a psychographic trait that is personal, but that everybody has something that they are working on to overcome. And so when you touch on that component, you actually bring big, diverse audiences together. Another example of that is, luchadors, right? So I think that obviously Jack Black did a great job of introducing them. Nacho Libre is one of my favorites, but our lens brings a different kind of authentic theme and voice to it. We actually brought AAA wrestling to the United States, and we created a bunch of superheroes. And so if anyone ever wants to come to a set to come see Lucha in Boyle Heights, it's really exciting. And we have actually kind of put that cinematic lens over it, and it's almost like telenovela meets wrestling. So it's very exciting. The engagement is unbelievable on this program, so it's been very successful.
And after 3 years, really this is the evolution that we're going through right now as we speak. This is real time. That El Rey, as we said, is a 3-year-old network, but what's happening is that within the body of the network, there were a lot of things going on organically. So not only were we programming the network to 45 million homes, but we were doing branded entertainment. We were being approached all the time about creating original pieces for brands. We've been doing digital. We're releasing our first digital original on Go 90 in the fall. So it's a little bit of a sneak peek. We're announcing it at TCA on Thursday this week. And also just beginning to break ground on some international distribution. So all of those things were happening all at once. And so now what's happening formally is that we're standing up a studio component for the network. So the network will still exist as it always has. The studio will have the opportunity to create content not just for El Rey, but for other platforms. And so it's an opportunity. There's a lot of discussion yesterday about the potential for brands to become studios and the pitfalls and what expertise it takes to do that. I can tell you firsthand that the time and effort and specialty and experts that you need around the table to construct the distribution piece and the deal-making piece of the studio is something that we're very fortunate to have because of our long history in theatricals, but it's not something to take lightly. So as we stand this up, we'll be doing an earmarking content that's for El Rey Network, but also getting out to the broader world as well. And so from a studio standpoint, we really wanted to end by focusing on the studio in particular and two key things. We'll show you some case studies from some branded entertainment things that we've done, again, organically now under the banner of the studio, and then we'll close with a reel to show you what we've been up to with our original programming this summer.
Yeah. Just a little context before we dive in. Robert named the channel El Rey. There was a bunch of different names that were on the table, but he has always, in his movies, if he did use Spanish, used a word that you already knew what it meant. So El Mariachi, you knew what that meant, right? Matador, which was one of our original series, you knew what that meant. And El Rey means the king, right? And so I think it's really important that people get so excited about it, you know? And it means something to you, right? It's important. It's also a famous mariachi song called El Rey. So this is an example of a case study that we did with Nike. It was really successful. Kobe, actually, after Machete Kills came out, Kobe was like, I want you to make me Machete, and called Robert. And it's so funny because Robert is not like a gigantic sports fan. And so he's getting this call from Kobe, and he's like, okay, what do you want me to do? And so he knew that he could take his tennis shoe and then create it into a persona. So this was a very successful campaign that actually won a Clio with Whitten Kennedy. So it's been a lot of fun. And people have actually come back to him and asked him to do what he's done with Kobe to them, like Wilmer Valderrama, and Ricky Martin has asked him. And so it's exciting to see it happen. The Remy Martin campaign. So the first one he ever did actually was with George Clooney and Remy Martin. And then this one, they approached him and said, we want you to come up with a really cool idea. And so he said, what if we make a movie and then we lock it up and we don't show it for 100 years and we give out all the tickets for everybody to come see the movie. And so their heirs are gonna come see it in 100 years. And so this campaign was off the charts successful with like 500 million uniques, just because they created all this hype. We had like a fake, red carpet, just everyone thinking that they're gonna see the movie, and really it was just a riff, and it was like, you're not going to see it, you have to wait 100 years. And so it was, John Malkovich actually worked with Robert on this, and we did it in our studio in Austin, where we have 30 acres, and we do everything from production design to props to color correction to everything soup to nuts. So we're totally vertically integrated. So if y'all ever want to come down to Austin, you're more than welcome.
And there's great barbecue involved.
Yeah. We did projects with COORS highlighting MAVERICKS. I think that's really an important thing to talk about, is a lot of times there's no place for people like me, right, that want to go and get an opportunity to be discovered. And that really was why Robert did the network. Was he said, look, I'll be the only director with distribution in Hollywood, and we're going to be able to discover all these voices and break the system and give them a shot. And so that's really what we've done. And it's really nice to see that from our People's Network showcase, people have gotten signed on by managers and agents just from being featured on our shows. So we're really living up to that mission, and it's exciting to be able to do that. And then I was also excited in the YouTube video to see Demi on set with us, actually. She was there when we were filming Dusk in Austin, and then Robert did her music video for Confident on our set also. We do a lot of integrations, even like with our shows. So Dusk Till Dawn, the series, Slim Jim was like, we want to do something, what should we do? And so basically the riff was that the vampire is going to attack you, but if you throw a Slim Jim at it, it eats that instead of you. And so it actually came out really well. And so we'll actually do a lot of these things when we're already filming, so that the production value of the piece is so high, because we're just pulling somebody off of set and then doing it at the same time. And so we've done that very successfully for a lot of different campaigns, especially with the Happy Socks piece. So these are just a few examples of things that we've done. We've had a lot of fun doing it.
And then along with those integrations, we're also doing similar sorts of pieces for digital that are custom, working with the productions to actually create sidebar content, original content around those that are standalone, some of which are deep cut if you are a fan of Lucha Underground. They're things that go a little bit deeper into the history, but also things that are really accessible as well. So we wanted to close and then leave a couple minutes for questions, but show you just a quick reel of, this has been a really busy year for us. We launched 3 originals in June and have 2 more coming in the fall. So it's a little bit busy time, but it's exciting. And just wanted to give you a quick sneak peek at what
Rey
this looks like.
Originals this summer.
This, my friend, is a temple for combat.
Sometimes Baja does not want to be beaten. The world of pain.
It sounds like an action movie coming to life.
Rey Originals. All summer long.
Just real quick, we worked, just for our partners out there that are working on digital platforms, we actually worked with Defy Media to take Man in Arms, which is a very successful program that gets, 1 million views every time they launch a new show. And then we created a longer form format with them. And so it was actually very, very successful this summer. So if you all have any properties and you want to figure out how to create them into long form, let us know. We'd be happy to help you. So does anyone have any questions?
Does the programming and/or the audience skew male for El Rey, or is there a balance that the network is ultimately trying to reach?
It's 60-40.
Yeah.
I mean, because I only live with boys. So, if you're watching Mantertainment TV, your girlfriend's going to be sitting next to you. So, yeah, it's actually 60-40.
But we make a point, if you may have caught the clip in, you wouldn't know which show, from Lucha Underground. There are female wrestlers, female luchadors, so they're a part of the storyline, and so it's very important that powerful women are a part of the story as well. So the 60-40 is reflective of that attractiveness, and as you said, just the being held hostage a little bit by MAMTV sometimes. Any other questions? Great, well, thank you so much.